A nice little title that's going up.
I am a 21st century superhuman, and I know that the answers are inside. Yeah, I am a 21st century superhuman. Now is the time. Come on everyone, let's celebrate. We are the children of the sun. I can see it when I look into your eyes. We are the same, and we are light, yeah, we are one. Here now, hear my ancient prayer and sing along. We are awakening as one, and we can make a difference. Yeah, we can be the change it takes to make the world a lot more fun. Well, if you're feeling kinda down and you need some inspiration to remember who you are, oh, now, child, please don't frown. You can choose a new vibration, and these words can take you far. I am a 21st century superhuman, and I know that the answers are in.
Hi there. I'm Cary, Ellis, author of 21st Century Superhuman book series. And today I have with me Ceslie Rossi, who's my regular co-host on these Wednesdays where we talk about multidimensional living. We might start calling it cosmic living because it's shorter. And today we have with us a wonderful lady named Sajit Greene. And I'm trying to figure out why I've got you a little low in the window here, Sajit. Let's see. Anyway, I'll mess with that. But thank you guys for being here today. That's good. That's my Zoom window. I'll just have to adjust it a little bit. So, Sajit, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? I know that you're an evolutionary astrologer. And we are really excited to hear what you have to tell us today about the fall equinox.
So thanks so much, Cary and Ceslie, for having me on your show today. And happy equinox, everybody. It's the fall equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere and the spring equinox in the Southern Hemisphere. And I am an evolutionary astrologer and a soul guide. And what that means is that I use insights from evolutionary astrology to help people to understand what their soul journey in this lifetime is about, what they're here to heal and resolve and transform, and what they're here to evolve into. And I'm really excited to tell you about something that happened just this morning. So let me know if you're ready for me to just kind of take off and roll with it, or do you want to do any more intro or ask me any more questions?
Cess, go ahead and pop in there, and then we'll let you rock and roll. Oh, you're muted.
Hi,
there
sorry.
You are. It's okay.
Can you briefly explain what is evolutionary astrology?
Great question. So evolutionary astrology is a kind of Western astrology, and it's looking at the evolution of your soul. And so, yes, I also can see the psychological level, the personality level, but what really fascinates me about it is that I can see down below the personality level to the soul level and your soul's highest intentions for what you're really here to grow into and express and embody, and how you're here to contribute to the collective in this lifetime.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Very nice. Yeah. I'll just say from an introductory standpoint that everything we do here as 21st century superhumans is talk about how do we adjust ourselves in this world, in this great shift of the ages that's going on, where we see chaos around us. Life is different than we thought it would be. And how do we center in ourselves, in our path? We say breathe, smile, and love, because by so doing, we change our physiology and we change the world. So we're excited to hear what you have to share with us from an evolutionary standpoint and how we can access more of that strength we have within as we feel ourselves faced with growth and with change and pressures.
So one of the things that astrology does for us is that it helps us to understand what are the cosmic energetic influences on us at any given moment. I mean, really moment to moment, you could look at what's going on. And then it's up to us with our free choice, how are we going to respond and how are we going to work with those energies rather than resist them or try to work against them, how to really partner with the cosmic energies. So it's great to know what the energies are. And for me, my spiritual path is also really an important part of kind of how I coach people, because just because we know what the energetic influences are doesn't say how are you going to respond. And so I love what you said about the breathe, smile, love, because my belief system, my thought system is based in choosing love. I'm a long-term student of Course in Miracles and A Course of Love. And so I believe that we have the power to choose not what's going to happen, but how we respond. So if you know what the energetic influences are, and then you go within and you come from that place of, okay, I'm going to choose love. I'm going to choose for peace. And so it's not just like, oh, what's going to happen to me today, but how am I going to relate to what's happening? So thanks for those thumbs up. I'm glad to see we're on the same wavelength.
Yes. And, one of my favorite quotes from A Course in Miracles that I repeat a lot, and I don't know if I'm saying it exactly, but is that love is all that really exists.
Yes.
And everything else is an experience around that of what being outside of love is.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's all very relevant to what's going on right now today with the equinox, because when the equinox happens is when the sun goes into the sign of Libra. And many people are familiar with the symbol for Libra, which is those old-fashioned, the balance,
right,
that was used in the olden days. And so it is about finding balance and finding peace and harmony, and how we do that has a lot to do with how are we managing our own emotions, or how are we choosing to work with fear when it arises. And even though love is really all that exists, and maybe another way to think about this is, I think you guys are all about 3D, 5D, that language works for you.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah.
So a lot of what's spoken of in A Course in Miracles doesn't really make sense at the three-dimensional level of consciousness, because it's not about duality. So in the realm of duality, we can have emotions of love and we can have emotions of fear. But on the fifth dimensional level of consciousness, that's what the Course in Miracles is really letting us know what that level of consciousness is like. And there is no fear at that level of consciousness. But at the 3D level, and here we are, I can't speak for you, but for me, I feel like I'm in a transition. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like I'm completely every single moment living from 5D consciousness, or another word that works for me that may or may not work for you or your viewers is Christ consciousness or unity consciousness.
Right.
And I'm not there in every moment. And so I'm really all about embodying my divine human self and having compassion for the human aspects. And so what I really wanted to share, one of the things I really wanted to share today that relates to the equinox and this whole topic of love and fear and peace and equanimity and finding balance when there seems to be a lot of chaos around us, is that at the same time today that the sun is moving into the sign of Libra, this sign of peace and harmony and balance, it's right next to the planet Mars. And Mars, yes, so it's a really interesting paradox that the cosmic energies are bringing up for us to look at and to work with. And
because
so
Mars is kind of representative of warlike. How do you explain Mars?
Mars is the archetype of the warrior.
Yeah.
But another way to think about it, if we think about it not in terms of like masculine, feminine, or a warrior, but think of it more in terms of an energy.
Right.
That's not like in a human form. So the energy of Mars is it's an activating energy. And it fires us up. It's fiery and activating. And that activating energy can help us to be very assertive, or the shadow side of Mars can be aggression. And that can be a conflictual kind of energy. So there can be arguments, there can be conflicts, there can be friction is another way of thinking about that fiery quality. And so we get to choose, how do we want to work with this fire energy of Mars? And not only is it that the planet Mars is next to the sun as the sun moves into Libra.
Wow.
So Mars is also in Libra, the sign of balance and peace and harmony. And I'll just drop in one more piece of astrology and then kind of like move away from we won't be so like totally geeky on the astrology bits and pieces.
It's great.
Yeah.
So the moon today, and the moon lets us know what's the mood, what's the emotional mood of the day. Well, the moon is in the sign of Aries, which is also considered
fiery.
The archetype of the warrior. It's also fiery, activating. And so how are we going to choose to use that activating energy? And it can be like a sword. I'm kind of holding up my hand. I wish I had my sword. I loaned my sword out to a friend, and I'm waiting to get it back. And so it's like, how are we going to use that energy of that sword? Are we going to use it to really stand up and speak our truth?
Yeah.
And stand up for our sovereignty, which is not about hurting or harming anyone else. It's not about creating conflict, but creating the self-empowerment to create boundaries, to draw a line in the sand to say, no, you can't invade my space, or you can't take advantage of me.
Right.
It's also great for things like being an advocate, being an activist. So I'd love to pause and allow for some questions, because I can kind of go on and on and on.
Let's see. Somebody, Unity 369144, which is Judy, says, hello, ladies. Thank you for being here. How sweet. Hi, Judy. We're glad to have you here today.
Judy. Hi, Judy.
So I think people's fierceness is rising to the surface. People are becoming advocates. They are standing up. And I think that's what this time on the planet is so ready for that. Like all this darkness that's been in the shadows has been rising to the surface. And we're having to stand up and say, no, we don't want to do that anymore. No, we don't want our freedoms taken away. It could go on, but it sounds like that's a lot of fiery energy in one place too.
It is a lot of fiery energy in one place and at one time. And I think in terms of the inner peace, there are a lot of things that we can do to fiercely protect our inner peace. So even when things seem maybe out of control or it might seem like we don't fully have power in certain ways. What you always have power over is how are you working with your own emotions, your own thoughts, your own energy, your own body. And so I feel like that piece starts at home. And I did want to share this beautiful synchronicity that happened just before our call, which is why I was kind of like so excited to share with you, because I had three things kind of converge in my experience this morning right before our call. And one was that I got a message from a friend that was letting me know this person's angry at me. Aww. And I don't really work well with other people's anger. I mean, I get afraid when other people are angry at me. I'm not really good with anger and with dealing with other people's anger. And then the next thing that happened was I'm sitting here at the computer. I was trying to figure out about headphones and sound and stuff. And I'm looking out, like there's a window right like in front of me. And I look out the window and there was a white dove walking in my front yard.
Oh, how perfect.
And it was with its partner, because doves they pair off. And its partner was your typical gray, like a mourning dove. Here we have a collared dove with a little black collar on it. So it wasn't a pigeon. It was a dove. And rather than being gray, it was albino. I got my binoculars out. It had a little red eye. It had a little red feet. And the other part of the synchronicity, believe me, at the very same time, I had just started playing Peace Train.
Oh, how cute.
On Spotify.
Aww.
So here's this convergence of, this sign of peace, and I'm playing Peace Train, and yet I have someone who's angry at me. And I can still feel the activation in my body. My nervous system got activated. And so how am I going to work with that energy in my own body is part of, I think, the question of today is if we have our own anger that's rising up, or we encounter other people's anger, or a closely related emotion is fear. I mean, fear and anger are like two sides of a coin. So I've been noticing lately that when my anger comes up, if I go down and find the roots of it, it's rooted to fear. It's rooted in fear.
Yes. It's our defense mechanism.
It's our defense mechanism. Mm-hmm. And so we have so many tools these days for working with our own nervous systems. I'm like so grateful that there's become so much out there being put out, information about how to heal trauma. Yes. Because one thing that I see is that being human beings that have been immersed in separation consciousness for I don't know how many thousands of years, or you call that fear-based consciousness, that is traumatizing. To be existing in a consciousness where we are separate from God, not that we're really separate, but we think we're separate from God. Yeah. We're separate from our higher self. We're separate from each other. We're separate from Mother Earth. That is traumatizing. And so you don't have to look very far to figure out, like, well, why do I have a trauma response in my nervous system? And again, I'm just so grateful that we have so much awareness and so many tools now, right, for somatic approaches to healing trauma and rebalancing or finding that inner peace and harmony, working with our own bodies and our nervous systems. Right. We kind of have
the trauma kind of built into our DNA or our memory, our genetic memory, and then one of the things we talk about in the ancient Aramaic is clearing that old data out of ourselves so that it doesn't resonate anymore. Because as long as we have that in our history, we may keep attracting situations that are at that magnetic point so that we can clear it, so we can bring it to love. We have Suzanne here, Belair, asking, beautiful ladies, interesting regarding fire boundaries. Like preventing fire, the land is burnt so the fire doesn't spread. That's interesting. Actually acknowledge the fear helps.
Yes, yes. So one of the ways that I work with it is that first I see that it's fear that I'm feeling. I acknowledge it. I embrace it. Not an embrace that's like, oh, I love you, fear. It's not that I love the fear, but it's an allowing embrace. It's that the love that I am is big enough. It's much bigger than the fear. And so that love of allowance and acceptance and compassion for myself can embrace and hold the fear, but I don't want to hold it in and keep it in my nervous system. So after I see it, allow it, embrace it with compassion, then I've been learning how to allow it to ground down through my grounding cord, down into Mother Earth, into Gaia, because she is certainly big enough to transmute any kind of energy. I don't really believe that there's good and bad energy. It's just energy. And she is so incredibly powerful. And she knows what to do with that energy. And we can allow it to go on down into the earth. So how about you guys? Do you have some great ways that you work with fear and anger energy when it's like running around in your nervous system?
Last week I had tons of it going through me. I mean, making me crazy. And then I opened my heart, and like what you said, I just went into more of a compassionate space, and then nothing seemed as threatening anymore. And everything shifted and my nervous system calmed down. And then I was singing in the car and just everything shifted. And I noticed how my whole nervous system just calmed down, and I was actually happy again, and I wasn't running all that adrenaline through my system in a very short amount of time.
Nice.
Yeah. Because I could have gone crazy with it. I can get really bad in that way. So, and I stopped.
Yes, and that's part of
God it stopped.
Part of what I meant about like fiercely protecting our own inner peace. Is that we could get really swept into these vortexes or vortices, of fear or anger or conflict or drama. And it's really up to us to be set that fire line and be like, no, I don't really want to be consumed in that fire.
Right. Good job, Suzanne Belterre.
Yeah. One of the... Yes. Suzanne is fear of not being loved, being sanctified. Unity 369144 says you transmute it through your love. It becomes a positive aspect after being acknowledged. More clarity to work with. And I know Unity 369, it does seem to be a theme today because we just talked about that earlier. And Suzanne says, love that, Cess. I
love that you mentioned singing, because singing stimulates the vagus nerve, which is one of those things that, helps us to work when we're in a trauma response, or humming or chanting, yoga, qigong, dancing.
We have a really cool thing that we use, which is there can't be a tug of war if you don't hold on to the rope. And I love that one. That's helped me so much. If something seems to be irritating over here, if I just don't hold on to it, especially if it's with another person, if you don't hold on to the rope, there can't be a tug of war. And for me, that's been like a guide stone to getting past, where anger might come up or conflicts. And also learning that it's a resonance inside of me. That I say the matrix can only mirror to us that which we are sending to it. So, and it used to really make me mad when I had friends who would tell me that. But living in a quantum world, which is what my books are all about, it's kind of like part of the education we're in right now, that we literally put out a resonance and we bring to us that things that match that resonance, people, events, etc.
Yes. And so segueing that back to astrology, is that, again, like there are these energies, these energetic influences that are truly happening, but how we respond to it is our choice. And so just like you were saying, you know, if my internal, if the magnetic energy I am transmitting is fear, then I'm more likely to magnetize in something that is stimulating to my fear.
Right.
So if we're looking at this energy of Mars and think about, okay, what are the fear-based expressions of Mars and Aries, because we've also got the Aries energy going on today. What are the fear-based expressions of Mars and Aries? And what are the love-based expressions of Mars and Aries?
Yeah.
And then see if we can do some of that internal adjusting so that we are magnetic to the love-based expressions of Mars and Aries.
Nice idea.
So what are they? Tell us.
So I said them before and I'll say them again because I know it's not
Oh, you did.
So Suzanne says, thanks, LOL.
I think it's good to, repetition is really helpful.
Yeah,
So-
especially for me.
Suzanne's bringing
So
up singing.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. Yes. Okay.
And then
Well, I
what we
was
pay
saying that-
attention to grows and what we release dissipates from unity. Go ahead.
So both Mars and Aries, when they're coming from fear, it relates to anger, conflict, arguments, aggression, harm. If we think about a sharp metal instrument like a sword or a knife, that also relates to Mars and Aries, and that knife or that sword, that sharp tool or implement can be used to harm. And also on the shadow side of Aries and Mars is a lot of fear from having been hurt or fear of being hurt. So now let's look at the love-based expressions of Mars and Aries, and that's about using that energy to activate your empowerment, your self-assertion, your sword of truth, your sword that helps you to feel empowered to speak your truth and to stand up for truth with a capital T truth, and to stand up for peace and to stand up for justice and to draw a line in the sand and say, no, you can't cross that boundary. You can't take advantage of me. You can't invade my space. That empowerment for saying no when you want to say no, and yes when you want to say yes. So that's what I mean by the fear-based expressions of Mars and Aries and the love-based.
Right.
And then if you think about that, the sun is moving into Libra, and we're in that Libra season, this next 30 days of Libra, which is about peace and balance and harmony. But it's not like a meek, mild, like, oh, well, I'm just going to be nice and I'm not going to really speak up and I'm not going to really say what I need because I don't want to like rock the boat. That's the shadow side. That's the fear-based side of Libra.
Okay.
But we're getting the message today loud and clear that this is not a wimpy kind of Libra expression. This is the empowered Libra, because we can't truly have peace and justice and harmony if people are advocating their needs. Abdicating, not advocating.
That's what I was going to say. If
Advocating.
they aren't advocating their needs, or if they are abdicating. Yeah, right.
Exactly. So the fear-based Libra can be very codependent and afraid of conflict, and so not speaking one's truth.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
But the love-based expression of that Libra balance is that all people involved. So if we think about Libra and relationships, all kinds of relationships, if everyone is being really forthcoming about what they need and what they want, and yes, there might be differences of opinion or differences of what people's needs are, but then having the courage, which is another Mars and Aries keyword, to have the courage to work through those differences and come to a true peace and harmony and balance that's based on mutual respect, mutual support, mutual care, rather than one person is like being meek and not really speaking up, and then the other person gets all of their needs met.
Nice. So the fierceness of the Aries, the fierceness of the Mars are kind of combining with the balance, the need for balance of Libra. So it's actually kind of neat. It's like raising Libra up to be more proactive and maybe calming them down to seek balance a little more.
Yes. And to me, the message I've been getting so strongly is about the inner peace first. You know, it's like that peace starts at home. And I've got to use that fierceness to be really on it, you know, to really protect my inner peace. That doesn't mean about building some kind of a wall around me, but it's about how am I managing my inner energies and my inner state. So I'm working a lot with Saint Germain and the violet flame. I don't know, do you guys work at all with the violet flame?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and again, I so agree with you, Cary, that it's about, you know, what is our inner, where's our energy, where's our resonance, our magnetism, what are we sending out as a message to the universe or to God or to into the quantum field of what we really want.
Mm-hmm.
And so that calls for such deep honesty of like, where am I really at on the inner? And then developing this mastery of our inner peace and our inner balance so that we can be magnetizing peace and harmony on the outer as well.
Yes. Beautiful. Cess,
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so I have Mars in Libra, right? So I'm like,
you do?
Yes, I always hesitate a little bit. But and the thing is, I always deeply admire Aries people because they just go for it. They don't overthink things. They're like, oh, that would be fun. Let's just try it. Woof, woof. And they do it. And, you know, a lot of the times it goes great and they're really successful and they don't even think and do all the fear tripping that I do a lot of times before I do things. And that's that Mars and Libra thing. So as you're talking about all this, I'm just thinking about, you know, me too.
Well, I'm glad you're thinking about you. And so Mars is in Libra right now also.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to. So remember, there's that choice. You know, you get to choose how you're going to use your Mars energy. Yeah. And it doesn't have to lead you into that kind of hesitancy and being afraid of conflict or not wanting to speak up. It can actually empower you, you know, to really speak up for your needs and really work towards true peace and harmony and balance between you and other people.
That's truly what I always think about the most. It's creating peace and harmony and balance and beauty in the world. Like that's so important to me. So I think that's the Mars thing too. That's the other side of Mars as well. I mean, Mars and then the Libra together, which is the kind of energy we have right now.
Yes,
that's just like the other side of that little golden coin.
We'll say goodbye to Unity 369. She's got a skedaddle, but good to have her here. Cess, that's really interesting about you because I do see in you that beauty and balance. Like you're really doing that a lot, but you're also this really fiery person. You're bright. You're expansive. You know. So it's interesting hearing that about your chart because it helps me understand, you know, kind of the energies operating there.
Yeah.
Plus being a Leo on top of all that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you brought that up about how, you know, that you're so all about, you know, the peace and harmony and balance and beauty, which are all Libra themes, you remind me that one of the other love-based expressions of Mars and Aries is passion.
That's what I was waiting for you to say.
Yes, passion. Yes. So having the passion for peace. And so that is, that's another way to think about this energy that's being brought in with the equinox today is having a passion for peace, or another kind of mix of these archetypes would be being a peaceful warrior, And so again, it's like this paradox, because we don't think of a warrior as being peaceful. But if you're being a warrior for peace, meaning you have the passion for peace, and you're out there with your sword of truth and sovereignty, and you're not out to harm anyone or to create conflict, but to work through conflict to arrive at true peace. But if we're abdicating our needs or not speaking up and being afraid of conflict, then there never can be a true peace. It can't really be fair. It's not really fair if one person's needs aren't being met or one group of people's needs aren't being met.
That's really true too.
That's true. Yeah.
That was a Bob Marley, one of those Bob Marley songs. You know, you can't have peace without justice. So if things aren't really fair, it's not a true peace. There can be like a illusion of peace, like, okay, we're not going to rock the boat, but it's not true peace, because true peace is based on fairness and balance and harmony.
I think so much of what we're having to learn right now is kindness, is forgiveness. In the ancient Aramaic, we teach that forgiveness is removing from ourselves those things that are resonating, you know, in the darker part of our energy field. And you know, it's just, we're really being pushed to be truthful but be kind at the same time, and to help create change, but also to allow for the choices of others. I mean, it's really a big time for humanity, I think. And I can see that in the, you know, finding the balance in Libra, and then this pushy energy that's in there too.
And one thing that I wonder about is that to be an advocate or an activist, a lot of times there's anger that can activate us or get us into action, move us into action. And I also believe that if we're advocating or being an activist for something with a lot of anger and fear raging around in our body, it's not really, again, there's not really a peace inside.
Right.
So how can we be advocates for others and protect others as well as ourselves, and be activists for those of us who feel called to be an activist, but do that from a place of inner equanimity?
Yeah.
And I don't really know that I can do that. I also feel, for me, and this might also speak to the two of you and some of your viewers and listeners, is that I'm more called to be a beer than a doer a lot of times. I feel like what am I here to do? When I ask myself, you know, what is mine to do here and now? To me, I'm really more of a transmitter. I feel like I'm here to be peace and transmit that peace, and to kind of co-create groups of people who are also about that, and creating life rafts during this time of so much chaos and transition.
I love that. Life rafts. Very nice.
And we could also call them love rafts.
Nice.
To be these
I love that.
rafts.
And I talk about community. I feel like we need each other, but I like that life rafts and love rafts with other people who we have common vision with. Very beautiful.
Yes. And then together, you know, that we can all be transmitters of that energy of peace and harmony and balance.
Right.
And I also know that other people are called to act.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm more called to be. It's more about how I'm being. And other people are called to act. And it's not that one is better than the other.
True.
Or that we're all about action or all about just being. I think we're all a yin yang, you know, balance, some kind of a balance of those two. But I do want to sort of kind of put out this message today that for people who do feel called to activism, to remember to also guard your inner peace at the same time that you're out there fighting for peace and justice.
Beautiful. Beautiful words of wisdom for this equinox. Well, shall we call this to a close? Ces, do you have any other thoughts you'd like to share? Or Sajit, any more words of wisdom for as we push off in our life raft from the shore?
Our life rafts, our love rafts. I'm grateful for the two of you. I can tell that, that you are creating a life raft of love. And I also wanted to say that I did listen to your last show. And one of the things that I loved so much about your languaging was when you used the phrase, the powers that were, instead of saying the powers that be. And I feel like it's so important, the language that we're using as we speak to being in this new consciousness and this new reality. And that's part of creating the life raft and the love raft is how we're talking about our reality. So thank you.
Yes, you are so welcome. And that comes from, the word abracadabra that the magicians use to open up the cave or whatever. That means I create from the words I speak. So it's an ancient Hebrew, Arabic word. And I really believe, just like you said, as we carry the energy inside of ourselves, we will voice those words. And it's choosing. I choose the energy that I carry inside myself. And Yeshua or Jesus said, cancel, release, and let go. That old data that we don't want to carry around anymore. It's really a very simple process. And the breathing, smiling, and loving literally changes our neurobiology, and it allows us to release that old data. So we can resonate in love. We can resonate New Earth into being.
I feel like New Earth comes and goes depending on where I'm at, Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, it's there. It's just, are we resonating with it? It's already there.
It's already there. So sometimes I'm there, and sometimes I'm like,
right.
Yeah, me too.
I had too much coffee.
Yeah. I had a teacher who used to say, our perfect electronic blueprint is there. All we have to do is step into it. And I think New Earth is the same way.
It seems to be it's not like you just get, even I've read that, enlightened beings say it's work. You don't just get enlightened and stay there.
Right.
Like you have to keep working at staying enlightened.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying about fiercely guarding your inner peace.
Yeah.
To really stay on top of what's going on. What are the thoughts I'm thinking? What are the emotions? How am I working with those emotions? How am I working with my energy? Where's my frequency resonating? And that's empowerment.
Yes. Suzanne is here saying she's floating with us, ladies, and thanks.
On the boat, on the love boat.
That's right. Thanks, Suzanne, for being here. And I'm going to go ahead and play our little outro song if you guys want to hang out for a minute, or else we can talk soon. Yes, and go ahead and say your goodbyes.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Peace.
Yes, thank you. And let's remember to breathe, smile, and love. And please subscribe to our channel. We're happy to have you join us more often, and we'll see you all soon.
And if you're feeling kind of down and you need some inspiration to remember who you are, whoa, now, child, please don't frown. You can choose a new vibration, and these words can take you far. I am a 21st century superhuman, and I know that the answers are inside. I am a 21st century superhuman. Now is the time.